Hello everyone and welcome to Senna's Sweet 16 Episode 1. So it's been a long time since I made that introduction video to introduce the series to everybody, and I promised that I would get on the first episode as soon as possible. However, there were some delays. I went on vacation and I got lazy, and the Japanese car pack came out for Assetto Corsa, and I fell in love with that. I still highly encourage that everybody get that if you have Assetto Corsa. It's an incredible use of, I think it's like $8 for that car pack. And then also I got Overwatch, so I've been playing Overwatch. So that's why this has been delayed, but I have no less motivation to continue on with this series. I really do want to continue on with it. So here we are for the first episode. In 1988, the first race of the season was the Brazilian Grand Prix. However, it was not at Interlagos. It was at, oh boy, Jacarepaguá. Jacarepaguá. Oh, man. So I got Matt from Mystery Science Theater F1 to try and teach me how to pronounce this track name. But I'm just too much of a white American to be able to pronounce that properly. So Jacarepaguá. Jacarepaguá. Okay. Let's move past the name. So for this race, the first race of the 1988 season, it was Senna on pole in the McLaren MP4 ahead of Nigel Mansell, and ahead of Nigel Mansell by quite a margin as well in Q2. In the Q2 session, Ayrton Senna setting a 128.096. So that is going to be the target. Nigel Mansell in Q2 setting a 128.632, over 0.5 of a second slower than Ayrton Senna's time. So this is not going to be easy. I have never driven this track before. I had never even seen a race done at this circuit. I know nothing about it whatsoever. I did do some practice laps before recording this, so I did go out there and learn the circuit. Also, it's set for light clouds rather than mid clouds, because I found actually my computer handled Assetto Corsa much better when I'm not driving the Nordschleife. It turns out the Nordschleife, just I guess because of its pure size, uses so much more system resources on my computer in comparison to this Brazilian circuit, who I won't try and say the name again, but yeah, so it's a little bit lighter than the previous videos. There was a request on the intro video. Somebody asked if I could lighten it up a little bit, and the answer is yes, I can, because now I don't have to worry about shadows or anything like that. So let's go ahead and head out in the MP4. We're going to have 16 minutes to try and beat Ayrton Senna's pole position lap time from 1988, a 1 minute 28.096. All right, so here we are in the pits. It is a clockwise circuit, I believe. No, it's a counterclockwise circuit. So here we are heading out of the pits. A bit of a sharp left-hand turn, but then it's just asphalt on the right-hand side, despite it being painted yellow with stripes and stuff. This is turn one. Very, very long, high-speed corner. Kind of reminds me of Sector 2 of Malaysia, actually. And then this corner here, turn two, that corner reminds me almost a lot like Luffield from Silverstone, but higher speed but similar sort of length to it. So we already went through turn three. It's nearly flat out. Really depends how much speed you carry into turn two. But and then we have this tight hairpin at turn number 5 before the nice long straight, which apparently this straight is named Jun Chao, which is the name of the final corner at Interlagos, actually. So a bit of name sharing going on there. And this is turn number 6. Only 11 turns on this circuit. I am using the qualifying tires because you do have the choice. I believe it's like soft, medium, and hard compound tires, and then there's qualifying tires. And of course, those are the tires that Ayrton would have used, are the qualifying tires. So I am using the qualifying tires. There is no tire wear turned on. I am running with 20 liters of fuel. However, the fuel does not go down. There's no fuel consumption enabled either. So here we are through the final corner, which actually kind of reminds me of the final corner at Nürburgring. As we come onto the start-finish straight, and I was pushing the play button on my on my stopwatch that I had there, so that's why I ran off the circuit a little bit. Breaking down into third gear for turn 1. Turn 1's a strange corner. You know, it feels like you're carrying too much speed, and then it all of a sudden feels like you're carrying not enough speed at the exit. Very strange. Third gear again for turn 2, which is partially cambered. Again, just about flat out, a little bit of a lift on this occasion into turn number 3, but depending on how much speed you carry out of turn 2 will determine how much you need to lift for turn 3. And then I believe the slowest corner on the circuit, turn 5, the hairpin there. And then very important to get a good exit out of there, of course, as it does come onto the longest straight on the circuit as we make our way down towards the very high speed turn 6. So it's unfortunate for overtaking purposes that the longest straight on the circuit heads into a very high speed 4th or 5th gear corner, depending on the gearing you're running. I am running stock gearing. I didn't make any sort of suspension changes to this car. I am running completely stock gearing as well. I did not tweak the gears. I probably could have shortened them a little bit, especially since we're in qualifying and I'm not trying to overtake anybody. I probably could have shortened the gears a little bit, maybe found a few tenths. So here we go into the penultimate corner, turn 10. Also a weird one, and with a bump right at the exit as well, which can make it very difficult to get on the power. You want to trail brake as much as you can into the final corner here. Second gear for that one, and then careful not to run out too wide. And our first timed lap of the session is going to be a 132.211. Which is going to be marked up at the top right-hand side. You'll see my personal best, and up at the top left-hand side, you'll see Senna's pole position time. So that was almost like a banker lap, really. I really was not... You know, I was just trying to get through the lap. I just wanted my first lap to not have a mistake, really, if I'm being totally honest. Getting into 4th gear relatively quickly at the exit of turn 2 there, and then a lift through turn 3 because I got on the power so quickly out of turn 2, and then down into 3rd gear, and then you got to bring the car back kind of to the middle of the circuit after being to the left-hand side at the exit of 4, and then break down into 2nd gear for the first time in the lap. It's the first time you're getting down to 2nd gear. However, we do use 2nd gear again for turns number 9, 10, and 11, so the final 3 corners. 185 miles an hour heading into turn number 6, dropping down to 4th gear, about 135 mile an hour apex speed, or that's what I saw with my eyes, and then moving to the left-hand side, taking a little bit of curb through turn number 7 there. That's not really what you want to be doing. You want to be avoiding the curbs. No delta, because I am recording. This is a replay of the session that I did. Again, for those that don't watch the Green Hill Greenhorn series, you might not know this, but I don't actually record while driving, just in case there's any sort of FPS stutters or anything like that. It doesn't affect my driving. So what I do is I just go out, I do what I need to record, and then I go back and I watch the replay from cockpit view, and I just record that instead. So there we go. As we cross the line, it's 132.394. So unfortunately, it's just under 0.2 of a second slower than the previous lap. So I was pushing a little bit harder, but I think that may have led to some mistakes, unfortunately. And then braking way too deep into turn number 2 there. I actually had to drop it down into 2nd gear just to avoid running off the circuit. In this series, though, if I do run off the circuit or something, I'm just going to continue on. This is not the type of series where I'm just going to restart over and over until I get the perfect run or anything like that. Nope, I've got 16 minutes to try and do my best. You can see we are 3 minutes and 45 seconds into the session as it stands right now. Again, making our way down the very long straight between turns 5 and 6. I believe we hit about 185 miles an hour as we hit the corner last time, 184 this time, dropping down into 4th gear, and then I wasn't really sure the best line to take through turn 6. It was a bit of a strange one. You could carry a little bit more speed through, or get on the power a little bit earlier and run out wide, but then you got to bring the car back over to the left-hand side for turn 7 anyway. So I wasn't sure if it was really best to get on the throttle early and try and carry as much speed as you could, or just to have a tight line, you know. Hugging the inside line for turn 6 might be the fastest way, especially because it's not like there's any sort of straight after the corner. You're just immediately going into an even slower corner, because turn 6, you're exiting it in 5th gear, and turn 7 is a 3rd gear corner. So, yeah, I think it might actually be better to just really hug that inside. The last lap was a 133.721, so that is 1.4 seconds slower than my first time lap, and I've already gone and screwed up this lap. Got on the throttle a little bit too early going through turn 1, and that has put me into the grass, and unfortunately I'm taking my sweet time getting going again, but here we go. The car is pointing in the right direction now. Tires are a little bit dirty, as you can see on the left and right hand side, but those clean up pretty quickly in Assetto Corsa, so they should be at maximum grip once again already. So this lap is a bit of a write-off lap. You know, it's already guaranteed not to be faster, so I can kind of be experimental with this lap. I can maybe push a little bit harder or try a different line. I'm taking a very late apex for turn 5 there, but that has allowed me to get onto the throttle a little bit quicker. Let's see if it makes any sort of difference in the top speed as we make our way down towards turn number 6. Into 6th gear now, 175 miles an hour, 180 miles an hour, 184 miles an hour once again, so it didn't make too much of a difference. And down to 4th, you can see the car running out wide, really getting on the throttle, but then having to move back over to the left-hand side in order to open up turn 7. And then you don't want to go all the way to the left there, because then you have to open up turn 8 as much as you can, briefly up into 4th gear before dropping it down into 2nd gear for turn number 9. Then we will accelerate up into 4th gear. Hard to find a brake marker for this corner here. In fact, you could see there was some skid marks there from where I had to lock up into that penultimate corner, and it was very difficult for me to find the braking point for that penultimate corner. So what I found, though, was you generally want to be braking right about the time you would be shifting into 5th gear. So that's kind of how I was finding my braking zone for the penultimate corner. Just as soon as I was, you know, kind of high in the revs of 4th gear, I just slam on the brakes, and that was that. So I've already kind of messed up turn 1, so this is probably not going to be a great lap. The last lap, again, was a write-off. I lost 14 seconds, actually, as a result of that spin on the last lap. Big lift through there. I actually I dropped the right side tires into the grass on the run down towards turn number 3, which kind of gave me a little bit less grip heading into that corner, so I had to have a big old lift. So we've already had a couple of mistakes on this lap. I highly doubt that this one is going to be any faster. Again, making our way down the very long straight, and that is definitely a feature of this circuit. I will take this moment in time to say that I really like this circuit, and it's really unfortunate that it no longer exists, because it is an incredible circuit, especially for somebody like me. I really like fast flowing circuits. I don't like 90-degree corners and stuff like that. The only 90-degree corner really on this circuit is this next one. And it's not even quite 90 degrees. It's more like a 100-degree corner. But this is kind of the most boring corner on the circuit, if you ask me. I really like turn 1. I love turn 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, all of that. All of that. Big fan, big fan. Really like this circuit. It's a shame that I probably won't drive it again for a while now, but last lap was a 134.882. That's an incredibly slow lap time. That is 2.6 seconds slower than my personal best so far. And again, I have gone and messed up the lap once again at turn number 1, so I really don't think again that this is going to be an improvement. Getting on the throttle a little too early and unfortunately running out into the grass. So that means we are going to lose even more time on this lap. So yet again, this is kind of another write-off lap. And actually, that first timed lap of 132.211 stands as the fastest lap so far. Getting a little bit deep into the turn 5 hairpin as well. But again, that allowed me to take a later apex on that, get on the throttle a little bit earlier. So we'll see if that pays any sort of dividends as we reach the end of this straight and try to max out our top speed here. Nope, 184 miles an hour once again. So yeah, it's watching this back, I really wasn't paying attention while I was driving to the top speeds I was hitting, because I was more focused on finding my turn-in points, which I completely lost at turn 7 back there. But I was really trying to find different ways to gain some time, and turn 5 is just not one of those places, I don't think. Turn 5, you really just want to try and kind of keep a tight line and find your apex and then get on the throttle nice and easy. Taking a late apex, getting on the throttle a little bit earlier really didn't seem to do all that much for me. So passing the 9.5 minute mark now as we prepare to start another lap. I'm sure that last one was another very poor lap. Yep, a 134.7. So again, another write-off lap. Let's focus a little bit now. Let's see if we can nail turn 1. down into third gear, letting the car run out wide, and then bringing it back, getting onto the curb a little bit there, but that was much better than the previous 2 laps, and then braking as late as you possibly can for turn number 2, and then again, just using the cambered nature of the corner to help get your way through there. It's a much higher speed corner than you would expect. Same thing for turn 3, actually. The first several times I went through turn 3 back there, I braked for it and went down to like 3rd or 4th gear or something. It wasn't until like my 5th practice lap or something that I was like, right, I'm pretty sure this is full throttle through turn number 3. And again, it's not quite full throttle, but you definitely don't need to be using the brakes in a turn number 3. It's a lift at most. And again, I mean, that's down to setup. I'm running the default wings, the default aerodynamics on this car. I have not adjusted the wing levels. I really didn't think that adjusting the wing levels would help, though. There's only 11 corners on the circuit. They are pretty high speed, though, so some extra downforce certainly would have been nice in the corners, but then you'd be losing so much time on the start-finish straight and the run down towards turn 6, so I really didn't want to mess with the aerodynamics too much, or at all, in fact, on this car. Again, you can just see the bumpy nature. There was a couple other locations that there were bumps. Let me see if I can identify where those were. Very smooth final corner, no bumps there. Again, really reminds me of the final corner at Nürburgring. That lap was a 132.940, so we are back into the 132s. However, that is 7/10 off my personal best, and I completely turned in at the wrong time for turn number 1. That sent me wide, and that has sent me for a half spin and into the grass as well. Thankfully, I am pointing in the right direction, though, so that I will lose less time as a result of that slide in comparison to the slide that I had earlier on at the same location. So again, making our way out of turn 2. Again, this is another write-off lap, so and there you can see a big lift through turn number 3. I just wasn't turning in, and this is just where track experience comes into play. There's a big bump right there, actually, heading into the turn 5, and you can see actually some skid marks heading into turn number 5, and that is from me braking a little bit too late, locking up the tires as I go over that bump, and then just sliding my way into turn number 5. Which is really not what you want to be doing, so you really need to brake before the bump at the exit of turn 4 and the entrance of turn 5. Using a little bit of curbing there at turn 6 at the entrance of it, and then kind of splitting it halfway. I didn't really let the car run out wide, but at the same time I didn't hug the inside, just kind of at the middle of the circuit, briefly up into 4th gear before dropping it down into 2nd, and turned in a little too early for that one. Didn't carry quite enough speed, so that was just kind of an awkward corner there. The wheel even straightened up at one point, so really not a good corner there. Again, down to 2nd gear, and then over that bump. And again, you have to be pretty careful with that bump when getting onto the throttle. So I'm going to try and set myself up for a good start to the next lap here. Nicely out of the final corner, up through the gears. 12 minutes and 50 seconds into this session now, just over 2 minutes remaining. See if I can find my turn-in point for turn number 1. Yes, I do. Getting on the throttle a little on the early side, but that was actually okay. Up into 4th gear, and then briefly 5th gear before dropping it down into 3rd gear for this left-hander. Taking very late apex there, getting on the throttle nice and early, avoiding the exit curb as well. Big lift, I assume, here. Ooh, I turned in a little bit earlier, lifted a little bit less, but also took a little bit more curbing as well. Here's that bump again. Badoosh. And into the hairpin. Oh, and I've gone deep. That's definitely not going to help me whatsoever. But I do get on the throttle again very early. But again, I don't think that's going to make any much of a difference as far as top speed is concerned heading into turn number 6. So, yeah, turn 6 would have been a fantastic overtaking location just purely because of the length of this straight. But it's just such a high-speed corner. 120 miles an hour was the minimum apex speed for turn 6. So to make an overtake into there, I mean, you gotta have some cojones on you for sure. I haven't personally seen, the 1988 Brazilian Grand Prix from start to finish, so honestly, I can't tell you if there were any sort of overtakes into turn number 6, but I guarantee you, if they were, those were done by some very, very brave men, as all F1 drivers were back then. I mean, they still are pretty brave, but I mean, you have to be downright insane to drive a 1988 F1 car. So again, through the final corner, there is 14 minutes and 20 seconds remaining as we cross the line here. That should be just enough time to finish this lap that we just started and also start one more. It was 132.926, another 132.9, again 7/10 off of my previous best, so I am still slower, but I've got 2 more opportunities to try and improve that, letting the car run out wide before getting back on the throttle nice and early and out of turn number 2. Let's see here if we lift. Yeah, not a very big lift that time into turn number 3. I found my turn-in point very well on that occasion. Finding the apex for turn number 4 quite well, and then really hugging the inside a little bit better than I have been doing on previous laps with the turn 5 hairpin. Could have gotten on the throttle a little bit sooner there, but it's very difficult to get on the throttle in second gear in this MP4. It's got so much power, and with the turbo lag and everything, it can be very, very scary. It can be very scary getting on the throttle in second gear. Let's be totally honest. Let's use the word that we mean, and that word is scary. We did hit 185 miles an hour, though, heading into turn number 6 this time, and it looks like we've carried a good amount of speed through turns 7 and 8 as well. Let's see if we can get a good run through turn number 9. It does look like we have done so, a fairly decent run, but then running off the circuit a little bit again, that's going to get some grass on our tires, breaking down into second gear, just missing the apex by maybe 1.5 feet or so, and then full throttle towards the final corner, and then again trail braking into the final corner. You can really trail brake into that final corner, and getting on the throttle, that looks like a tidy lap. What's it going to be? It is a 132.7, so it's still 0.5 slower than my first time. 0.5, half a second slower, and that looked like a pretty good lap. Definitely could have carried more speed through turn 1 there. Got a little bit too much on the curb towards the exit there, and you can see the stopwatch has finished, so this is going to be our final lap. And I am going to be pushing very hard because, again, I haven't really gotten very close to that 132.2. It's been I mean, that was the first time lap I did, and then I did a 132.3 the lap after that, and then it's just been mistake after mistake after slow lap after slow lap after mistake after slow lap. So I'm going to push very hard. I'm going to go full out, flat out. I'm just going to go as fast as I can, throwing caution to the wind here. Really want to try and see if I could get into the 131s at least. I mean, damn, look at Senna's time, 128.0. And I'm struggling to get into the 131s with an MP4 on qualifying tires and 20 liters of fuel. So, I mean, that just goes to show the kind of caliber of driver that Ayrton Senna is in comparison to me, a mediocre sim racer from the year 2016. Yeah, I got nothing on Senna, at least not here in Jacarepaguá. Jacarepaguá. Oh man, it just sounds wrong coming out of my mouth. So here we go through the final corner for the final time, and we're gonna cross the line. And what's the time gonna be? It's a 132.676. So that's actually my 3rd fastest time of the session. In front of you now, you will see all of my timed laps. I had 11 timed laps total for this 16-minute session. And that first time lap that I set ended up being the fastest with a 132.211. I was less than 0.2 off that for the second time lap with a 132.394. I was about 3 more tenths slower than that on the final lap with a 132.676. About a 0.5 tenth slower on the 10th flying lap, which is lap 11 on your screen there. That was a 132.7. I had a couple of laps where I was in the 132.9s. Yes, yeah, laps 7 and 9, or laps 8 and 10, as you'll see on the screen here. Both of those were into the 32.9s, but yeah, not very consistent. Again, no experience heading with the circuit heading into this, but on the right-hand side, you can see the times from the actual 1988 Brazilian Grand Prix. So with that time of a 132.211, I would have qualified in 14th, where Andrea De Cesaris qualified with his Real Ford. I'm only 0.5 second faster than Eddie Cheever in an Arrows Megatron. So that is pretty hurtful, I'm not gonna lie. I would have been 14th on the grid if you gave me the MP4 in 1988. Meanwhile, Senna and Prost up on the in 1st and 3rd with a 128.0 and a 128.7. So that's where I stack up to the 1988 F1 drivers at Jacarepaguá. Gosh, I am really looking forward to going to a circuit that has a name that I can actually pronounce. So I hope you guys enjoyed that video. Next time, we're going to be at Imola, actually, for the San Marino Grand Prix. That is a track I know a little bit better, but not the 1988 layout, so it should be interesting. Hope you guys enjoyed. I will see you next time. Bye-bye. We're falling through the earth.